know, this specific issue made a choice. And the choice was we want to preserve a timeline. More so because of the relationship they have with us. Felt like we could resolve this issue at a later date, work through a resolution that works for everybody. But in the meantime, keep moving forward and making progress on the project. And so I think they made the right choice. I'd like to be that partner for them that they've been for us.
Other questions or comments for Mitch? Council wishes. Boyd?
Nope, I haven't looked through. I'm sorry. I would move to approve the change order for City Hall construction project regarding allowance and contingency reconciliation as presented.
Second.
Motion by Nikki Boyd, seconded by Ruth Pierce to approve the change order of the City Hall construction project as presented. Is there any further discussion? In your roll call vote, please.
Sean Berger,
Yes.
Nikki Boyd,
Yes?
Suzanne Hawkins,
Yes.
Bruce Pierce,
Yes.
Chris Talkington.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mitch. And next we have a presentation of the City of Twin Falls preliminary budget for fiscal year 2019 from our city manager, Travis Rockweiler.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm not going to say that this is it, but it's really, really close. And if I were liken it to the triathlons that I complete, you are on the home stretch. You're on the run, you're feeling good, you got your second wind, and you're about ready to go through the finish line.
Could you rephrase that on the run?
You're on the run. And really, over the course of this process, we've really changed how we not only form the budget and moving forward by the use of our long-term planning group, but how we balance that process and then how we make presentations to you throughout this entire process. And as I will do next week, I really want to just take a moment and thank all of the members of the team that have really helped in the construction of this document. There are about 65 plus individuals that were directly involved in this process, and many more behind the scenes working and building the capacities of their long-term planning members to ensure that they have the information moving forward. Tonight, our goal is to recap where we have been and then to share what this budget and where it stands, as we will ask you next week to adopt this budget by ordinance, and then ask city staff to submit the L2 form and other required documents to both the county and to the state. So I'm pleased to state that this budget has been developed not only in accordance with the state laws, but also with best practices. One of the things that we often gloss over is, what are those best practices? And so really, as you take a look at our budget, it has evolved from a series of spreadsheets to a document that talks really about the city's intention, our goals, our desires. It is a policy document, it's a communication document, it's a strategic document as it's linked to our strategic plan, and because it's a budget, it's also a financial plan. And we've shared over the course of the last several weeks how this budget is directly aligned with our strategic plan. Last week, having the final conversation really about that center of our strategic plan, which is the men and women who work for the city of Twin Falls. Because it's really without these services that they provide that we would fall short every day recognizing that and meeting the needs of our citizens. So in recap, the budget that we have prepared for you is $1,555,345, less than the budget that we're currently operating on. This budget here is $69.78 million. Current budget that we're operating for fiscal year 18 is $71.34 million. A lot of those decreases can be found in those enterprise funds as we had one-time capital projects that were completed. I will say that the numbers here, if they reflect and seem to be a bit different than the ones we've talked about, we have incorporated all of the conversations, and so this is a live running total of where we stand today. Enterprise funds are down about nearly 9%, with the government-supported funds up about 2.67%, which includes the $770,000 of foregone balance that the city has at least had the conversation that they may be inclined to take. You had the last meeting set the maximum preliminary budget, which is reflected here. And these are the numbers that we use to really kind of guide this entire process. For the taxable value of the city of Twin Falls, as you can see, over the course of the year, has grown from $2.68 billion to nearly $2.9 billion. I think that's a reflection of the overall health of our community, and the total expenditures have gone down. We illustrate both, again, the tax-supported and the business-like or non-tax supported funds. The total tax collections you'll see incorporating are now up at $22,034,866. When we take a look at the total taxable value and we take a look at the tax collections, the tax rate will be $7.60. What's important to recognize is that this does not include any of the value of the Urban Renewal Agency, and if the city total value were to be looked at in its entirety, it would be nearly $3.56 million, which is important when you start thinking about the size of the city's state shared revenues and the amount of money that's coming in, because we get credit for that. We have shared that each individual case is unique, and this is an illustration of how property values have depreciated as a result of the recession, and then have significantly appreciated since their low in 2011. And the average or the median house inside of the city of Twin Falls has a value of $178,000. We were able to confirm those numbers by using outside sources, and which means that the average price per square foot inside the city of Twin Falls is about $125 per square foot. One of the questions we often get asked is, how does our tax rate and the taxes that are paid by a property owner inside of the city of Twin Falls in an owner-occupied home compare with other cities in the state? And this is a reflection of where we stand this year. What's important is we're looking at this year because every other city in the state of Idaho is going through that exact same process. They're in the final stages of their budget, and so we can only reflect back. We can't necessarily reflect where individuals are going. We can tell you that we believe that every entity that we've spoken to will be taking the full 3%. Several cities are taking foregone balances. In the case of Idaho Falls, they're taking a larger foregone balance than what we are, by not only value but also by percentage. So when you stack up the city of Twin Falls with all of the larger full-service cities inside of the state of Idaho, this is kind of where we stack, and we're listed in green. You'll notice that we have two numbers for both Boise and then Meridian, and one is the city of Meridian and the city of Boise just standing alone. The second is when you incorporate the Ada County Highway District, and we do that because the city of Twin Falls, like all of the other cities listed in blue, are responsible for their roads within their jurisdiction. And you can see that our roads constitute 13.8 or nearly 5.5, more than $5.5 million, and so it is significant. And I think that if you're trying to really create an apples-to-apples comparison, it's important to incorporate road expenditures as a part of that. So you can see the city of Twin Falls, under this current budget, was significantly less than our peer cities in terms of property taxes paid on an owner-occupied median valued home. Which brings us to where are we at this year, and based upon the work that we've done, this is the FY18 adopted budget in comparison to the FY 2019 budget that was moved forward by the council last week. and we illustrate the annualized difference as well as the monthly difference. We did not adjust the sewer because remember the 8,000 gallon cap, most of our users fell within that 8,000 gallons. There were people who slid above. And it's also important to recognize that as a result of that, and because that fee, even though the rate that we're assessing will go from 1.5% increase to a 0.5% increase, the overall fee in the area of sewer will increase for some greater than 5%. And so at the advice of legal counsel, we'll be holding a public hearing on all of the fees on August 27th. And so Lori and members of our finance team will begin that process. This also reflects the increase in the change in the recycling model that was brought forward as well. And so this really is a reflection of the changes to the sewer, the changes to the water, and the incorporation of the foregone balance and the total costs moving forward. So then stacking our tax rate as it stands now with the tax rates that have been issued by the city since 2012, you can see what those look like. You can see that this is still among the lowest tax rate that has been issued by the city over the course of the last several years. The incorporation of the foregone balance was designed specifically for these projects, and as part of the adoption of the resolution, the council called out the overlay projects that are described as well as the sidewalk improvements that are described. These are just shy of $770,000. What's important to recognize that after you include that, the city is still carrying a sizable foregone balance of nearly $1.417 million.
Travis, I just want to make sure that this carry forward amount, that's been rolled into the tax rates that you've shown us the total amount.
Yep, the $770,000 has been completely rolled in, and that has increased that tax rate to the $760 that has been illustrated. Yep. We briefly want to touch upon also the three larger parts of our enterprise fund. We've had a lot of conversations about the tax supported funds. These constitute about $25.46 million, or nearly 37% of the entire budget, and the breakdown of water, sewer, and sanitation are illustrated. There are several that fall under that category, but these are obviously the largest three that we focus on. These are enterprise funds, which means that they do not receive any of the revenues from property taxes, but they receive them from dedicated fees, user fees such as water buildings, sewer buildings, falls, gate entrances. So we're looking at a total water fund increase of about 5%, which is exactly what we've been sharing throughout this entire conversation. You'll notice that the utility rate conversation has increase has decreased from 0.5% to 0.5% from 1.5% because we adjusted the cap from 8,000 gallons to 12,000 gallons. And it's those who may appear on that upper end again, which may cause that rate by that fee increase to exceed 5% that we'll be holding the public hearing. The sanitation increase is 3.64%. And based upon our actions that we took, we said that we will cover the cost of recycling up to $175 per ton. If it goes above that, we will come back. The city staff is going to be creating a fund that will be used to offset some of those costs. We'll be checking in with you. I believe it was on a quarterly basis to have those conversations about where we stand in terms of recycling per ton. And as it was shared last week, we see it actually an improvement in the market, and that has decreased to about $160 per ton. So effective on October 1st, that curbside recycling program will get ramped back up, and we will continue that process. And so we're excited to reinstitute recycling in our community.
And are we going to increase public input so that people understand what's happening?
Yes.
It's been such a roller coaster ride and people are really confused and I don't know.
We are going to have to do a massive education restart to make sure that citizens know that as they're recycling, they are truly going to recycling facilities and not to the landfill.
I know that during the conversations, there was a group from Twin Falls High School. It'd be really good if we can make sure we reach out to them specifically. I'd like to make sure they're up to date with everything we're doing, if that's okay.
We can, and also CSI has a sustainability council, we'll reach out with them, and we'll also tap into many of the local individuals that kind of came forward to see if they could help also spread that out.
Thank you. Oh, on the side note, I guess, the library was willing to participate with us before too, so maybe we can reach out to Tara and see if we can do something there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think Bill and the folks from PSI have become experts in the re-education process over the last few months, so
I'm sure.
I'm sure they'll be looking for good partners to help spread that word.
I agree. And as you can see, next week we are asking for the adoption of the budget. We will have the public hearings that are associated with taking the foregone balance, as well as the general public hearing that is required for the adoption of the budget. And after the hearings, council will still have the opportunity to make adjustments. We will move forward with the adoption of the ordinance for your consideration, and then submit all the paperwork. But tonight is really the last opportunity before the public hearing to engage in any parts of the budget, to ask any questions that you might have of the staff that's in the audience.
So how does the public hearing on the 27th work if we're having the rest of it on the 20th?
So you're going to adopt the budget, but what the resolution for the fees is just the fee implementation fees. And none of them will go into effect until October 1st.
Perhaps would it be a good time to have, when we go over those fees, to go over the recycling at the same time, or is that?
We'll take every opportunity we can to talk about recycling. Maybe it may not be a part of the resolution, but I think it is certainly appropriate to talk about the changes that we've made.
I think people coming to learn about the fees, that goes right in.
Yep.
Let's put Bill on the hot seat.
We'll do that.
Further comments or questions for Travis? So as we've been very transparent through this entire process of the budget, we've allowed opportunity for the public to chime in on issues. So next item on the agenda is an opportunity for general public input. We would certainly entertain input on the budget, understanding there will also be a public hearing next week for that as well. If there's someone here who wants to address the council on the budget, now's your opportunity to come forward. Yes, please come down. And I would ask if you would please keep your comments brief as possible. And state your name for me, please.
Dennis Crawford, and I'm a resident of Twin Falls. I live on the west side of town. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I've been following this budget that you're proposing, and one of my complaints, I guess, is that there's improvements have been done pretty much all around the city. I live on the west side of town, and Fowler Avenue West hasn't had any improvements for over 40 years. There was a proposal about 35 years ago to do a local improvement district for Fowler Avenue West, but the people at that time didn't want to be part of it. In the meantime, Fowler Avenue has become a very unserviceable road, especially I live on the very west end, out in the Rock Creek subdivision. And at the intersection of Myler and Grandview, western intersection is only 17 feet wide. And then when you get to the edge of the subdivision, it's about 14 feet wide. Way inadequate for traffic that comes through that part of the street. And we've gone through now for almost 6 weeks of Grandview being shut down for an improvement there, but it only improved half of the road. That's the way that the projects are improved. If the subdivision is doing that side of the street than they do that side of the road. So we have really, and if I might add, several years ago when the proposal was made for that subdivision, Rock Creek subdivision, it was represented by Mr. Gary Young that the roads were, the infrastructure was in place, but I would submit that they are not adequate for the traffic. And we have 2 additional subdivisions getting ready to go into their phases there too. And then there's another problem on the west side of town too. Many intersections, including the intersection of Grandview and Fire Avenue West, and also of Falls, there's blockage of being able to see up the road. I've talked to the enforcement man, but we haven't seen any action there. So, might conclude what I'm saying. I would like to see that we would maximize the improvements on the roads on the west side of town, not just on the east and the south. And there are 2 schools that are in that area. In many of the areas, there's no sidewalk for children to walk to and from school. It's flat out dangerous. So I would ask that you revisit your budget and look for improving the roads in that part of the town rather than ignoring us as has been previous. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. So then I will actually also share the comments with our the engineer in relation to our master transportation planning process that looks at those corridors like that. So I'll mention that as well.
Didn't call me, so I'm sorry if I didn't know raising hand or something. I saw the gentleman over there, and I
So if you can stand at the podium, please, so we can catch up.
Oh, here we go. So this microphone is a little nicer than this one. Hey, guys. Hey, everybody give me a call? Wait, I gotta do it this way. Thank you.
No.
These are my people over here, so I just want to address them as well. Hey, guys.
So if you would please state your name for the record.
Yeah, some people know me's Nick. Man,
So if your name, sir,
Nick. Thank you, Sean.
and
Appreciate you.
your last name.
Man, that's kind of a dangerous question anymore. That's kind of what got me in a well, so I'm wearing an orange kind of suit just in case I happen to get arrested again for just being myself.
Can I get your last name?
Man, I'm just a Nick. Thank you. Some people know Nick. Thank you. I appreciate it. I can bring my birth certificate. Man, hey Sean,
Are you a resident or property owner in the city of Twin Falls?
Man, yeah, if you have jurisdiction over me, then yeah, I guess I am. Apparently, you guys have assumed so.
Part of the process for public input.
Absolutely, my friend. That guy said, hey guys, that guy said something seriously important, which was potholes. And you're absolutely right. And I got a ticket the other day, Saturday night, for not having a headlight on my bike. I mean, 1960s, 70s, those guys were dumb. They didn't know anything about safety. Right, I'm gonna protect you, Nick. I'm gonna put some bubble wrap on you. And man, here's a $156.50 ticket for not having a headlight on your bike, just in case you do a front flip over your bike over a pothole. You know, that sounds like a number we should assign this arbitrary number. We assign this frivolous infraction that I did. I'm sorry, Idaho, I didn't mean to hurt you. The state of Idaho can't be a hurt party, injured party. Are you serious? It can't be the plaintiff in not a victimless crime. I didn't base plant on pavement, on the geographical ground and hurt the state of Idaho? Why do I have to come out? Oh, you guys send me a bill for $156.50 with dudes with the, like, man, they like to put, it's just comfortable this way with my hand on my gun. We haven't hurt your people since, 1935 was the last time an officer fell in the line of duty. 1937 was the last time a sheriff went down, a deputy. And man, why do you guys act like we're the people that are ready to do some damage? And man, we could just all be a little bit relaxed. I'm not gonna hurt myself, I promise you. I mean, you don't have to teach me a lesson with this ticket. Now I can't pay my bills. Now I can't pay rent. Guess what? Now I'm homeless. I brought some evidence for my people to look at, my people, to see what you guys have done to an entrepreneur. The revenue stream that I was bringing in, and then I give you guys my jurisdiction. And even worse in court, and it's not your jurisdiction. Now we're just one city. Unelected judges with subject matter experts in children's psychology. Yeah. This guy doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't say, he says his children listen. No, we're gonna give custody to the authority, excuse me. We're gonna say he has custody, but man, the authority, no, he doesn't have any say. Oh man, let me just now.
So,
Can you make, you're 45%, you're gonna increase this, excuse me.
Excuse me, Nick.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's public input, my bad, I'm so sorry, Sean.
So the public input sessions are limited to 3 minutes, and your
Man.
3 minutes is up.
She just read something on paper. She didn't just state her opinion. You can't just, like that's junior. Sean, no, is it junior in a cross-examination for somebody to read, a witness to read a statement off the paper? Or is that some sort of collusion in the background that they need to raise our weight or our property value 45% and make up excuses like, well, 2012, that crash affected us big time. Nothing changed. Our people didn't change. The banks changed in New York, not our people. We shouldn't suffer for your guys' excuses to raise our property value, making us have to, our homeowners have our renters pay tons more than they can afford. $7.50 an hour.
Nick,
Again, yeah, just
your time is up
Okay.
for the
All right.
public input. I appreciate your input.
thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council on the budget? Any other items for public input? Seeing none, we will move on to any advisory board reports from the council. Anything from anyone? City manager's office? Nothing. All right, we'll do all of that then. The meeting is adjourned.
Sean, no. Oh, wait, talk. Where did you move? Sean, yeah, gotta be there, brother. Yeah, Sean just snuck in somewhere. Where'd he go? Must too bad. Oh, yeah, man, I do that all the time. Stub my toe usually. Jeez. Man, if anybody wants to talk that's of the public, man, I'd love to show you guys some real evidence and documentation. Just talk to me outside. I'm a nice guy, I promise. Man, how much would we or should we pay a city manager? Okay, city manager's on the 3rd floor, and he's the first guy you should meet right before you get into the pool where the ladies are sitting and HR manager. Sorry, I'm gonna step over here so I get through the room. Thank you, brother, for listening. And how much, I worked in New York in sales, and I made $99,000, $800, man. I almost hit triple digits. And I was like thankful for that. I was my butt off. This guy makes $5,210 a month, and then he's got extra money bonus. He's made $67,000 so far this year. I'm sure he works hard. I guarantee he works hard. When they make these, and I need to do more research, but man, these guys are arbitrarily signing us these bills, citations. That's just part of it, man. Additionally, and they double the fines. The salary is one thing. They get a kickback, $8,000. So that 45% increase I was talking about, that makes when they read that stuff verbatim, like how cross-examination lawyers will to discredit a witness, meaning they're obviously lying if they've discussed this and she's reading it verbatim, right? It's like that's not a person, that's a talking puppet. So you know that there's got to be some sort of collusion, and wow, do they make a lot of money and extra bonuses. And I bet you that $8,000 kickback receipt that the deposit I saw for their health care, some sort of a promotional item they get for investing into themselves in health and stuff like that. And an $8,000 deposit. One of their guys has a shred of bank account statement, like a stub, a pay stub, right? We have access to that. That's our information too. 7 different bank accounts. Maybe he has a kid. Maybe he has a couple of kids. I wish I had 7 accounts to split off to. 3 of them were different banks, and 4 of them were First Federal, which is where in my opinion, man, I think maybe some sort of fraudulent activity may be going on. Yeah. And they approached me in a sense, like they picked at me, and I was like, well, why are these guys doing this? Why are they assigning these arbitrary bills as police officers are giving me? It was like, well, they got to pay They call it a kleptocracy, you know? It's like a local mob or something, and that sounds so conspiracy theorist, right? But when I see these evidence and they put your information, I can pay your water bill by mail, you come and take that. It's not that I don't want to bore you, but if you sent it in by mail, or your mother did, or your uncle did, it would have been in the trash out in the back, just unshredded, just left out your private information, social security numbers included, not just water bills and things like that, in the dumpster for me to come and grab like just anybody else, and use it against our community. But these guys, the only thing they're interested in shredding is their own private information. The only thing I found that was shredded was their pay stubs. I mean, this is just kind of silly, man. This is like the $8,000 deposit. Here you go, if you want to take a look, man. I mean, I understand kickbacks, man. I mean, maybe you don't want to touch my evidence, but I was like, man, it's like $8 grand. Man, and I see it on their pay stub too. They have 51,000, man. They are talking about these police reports with a victimless crime. And this dude happens to get to talk to the attorney. He's like, no, I'm sorry, you deserve consequences. You're going to become a felon. I find this in trash with private information, dude. That's Sarbanes-Oxley. That's not good, man. That's your private information, man. Here's the cost.
Have you talked to anybody?
Well, the
other than
only
tonight?
person I could know is you, man. These guys know this is going into them. This is going into their funds. Yeah, dude, it sucks. It's too bad, you know. Hey, man, appreciate your time, brother. I'm not. Let's say, man, they just dictate the relationship between me and my children. I'm pissed off. These judges are not fit to be in the position they're in. They didn't go to they didn't get a psychology degree. I highly doubt it. They're administrators. Right. Yep. Because my mom had given birth to me in this region, this area, does not mean that I have to follow. So when you step into a building, there's policy, right? When you step into a state, there's a statute. But when you step into a municipality, there's a code, right? Or a so you have to follow by that, or else you're going to get a ticket.
So did you really get a ticket for not having a headlight on the bike?
Yes, sir. That's rough, man. You know what happened to the other guy? He got pulled over right after I did, and I only heard about it at I was over at Addison West, and I went on a further bike ride to Maverick down here, and the guy came in and said, oh, this guy just got his bike stolen by the Twin Falls Police Department because he didn't have a headlight. And Hannah down there, she's like, oh my God, he just got ticketed for it. Man, that's too bad. Hey man, I'm gonna keep the fight, brother. I see a need to call this to everybody's attention, you know? Hey brother, see ya. Man, I don't get that. Let's see what's going on inside though. Oh Jesus Christ, come on in. He's not going away. Oh shit. And oh, I busted on the floor. Didn't I? Oh shit. Oh, son of a bitch. Hey, let me get that. Hey, son of a bitch. Hey.